Now they lost it on the 40 acres on campus grounds. We gather round, discussing goals and dreams and life's adventures. The Texas Longhorns, they the talk of the town. High castles of the 40 acres, where we dive deep into the game day stories. From touchdowns to heartbreakers, we discuss it all. Texas Longhorns glory. We gather round each Thursday night, talking sports, it's so alright. From football to basketball, baseball to softball, Tim Wayne and Harry, we cover it all. Sports talk is our passion, our delight. Thursday night at 8:30, we unite. We discuss the scores, the plays, the teams who might. Let's dive into the game, let's ignite.
12 conference champions.
This is what we do. This is what we're on now. This is what we do, baby. This is what we're on now. Right now. This is what we're on now.
Yeah.
What's up, you guys? It's the Longhorn Fan Battle Podcast with myself, Harish Jucala, my guy, Tim Wayne. Tim Wayne. Post-game show. Our first one. I've actually thought about doing this every week, but this is a special moment. We've got a lot of time.
Yeah. This is.
How you feeling, man?
With winning comes the victors. Hail to the victors, as Michigan would say, but not today. Not in Ann Arbor. Listen, I feel confident. I feel more confident than I have in a while. I would say this is the best I've felt since the initial win against Alabama. It's a special feeling, especially when not to say that the media didn't feel that Texas could win, because a lot of people felt like Texas would win, but
the money was heavy on Texas this week.
Right, money was heavy on Texas. That did scare me a little. Scare me just a bit. But just to see the way Texas won, it's one thing to win, but it's how you win is what gets me. And the way Texas won this particular game is what I hope sets the tone for the rest of the season. That's literally it.
No intros. No, we're not paying any bills today. This is a Texas post-game show brought to you by FanBattleSports.com. FanBattleSports.com, where only Texas wins. FanBattleSports.com. All right, cool. So here's the thing. Texas wins 31-12. The score is not indicative of the domination that occurred today. And so today, Tim, if you want to join me real quick.
Yeah. I don't have any beer.
You don't have any beer? I thought you had one.
No, I don't drink beer, dog. I've only had a handful of beer.
Introduce you to beer. How do you not have beer? My God. Anyway. That's all right. That's okay. Well, crack open the water bottle, whatever you do. Texas dominates 31-12. Quinn Ewers. Tim, how many times did we come on this show over the offseason? How many times did I come on this show every Thursday the last 8 months and I said third-year Quinn was in?
Right.
And people y'all were not buying it. Here's the thing. Third year, and you know what?
I never said that I wasn't buying it. I just wanted to see a couple of things in order to really. It's not that I wasn't bought into Quinn. You know how I felt about Quinn. I like Quinn. I wanted to see Quinn.
There's some little things about Quinn that had you concerned.
He did what he was supposed to do today.
I think through the first, and you know what? Through the first two games this year, there's one thing about Quinn that you always give him a hard time about that he accomplished this year.
Yeah.
And it's the way that he zips the ball.
Yeah, he needs to put more velocity
on the ball. In the ball this year, bro. Like if you look at the no-look pass last week, the second touchdown pass to Golden last week, a lot of the throws today, and not just open coverage, but just the first touchdown pass that should have been a touchdown, by the way. should be 38-12.
Right.
That was a dime. That you don't get that pass if you don't zip it in.
Mm-hmm.
That was a dime.
Stepping up in the pocket was another thing.
His pocket presence, it was amazing.
Being able to knowing when to utilize your legs and getting down, that's another thing. Now he within this one game, he covered everything that I've always had a gripe about Quinn Ewers. I felt like he didn't utilize his legs when he needed to at times. He did that. Again, he put, stepping up in the pocket, even when pressure's coming around you, that's just awareness. And, that's what you want in a quarterback. You want your quarterback to be able to feel what's going on around him, and being able to step up in the pocket lets you know two things. Your offense is moving the guys that are coming around, and you should be able to step up and make a clear throw, in which he did a lot today. And then, putting more zip on the ball. That's been my main three things. I think that there was a lot of touchdowns, especially that's first year that Quinn was there. I felt like there was a couple of balls, specifically within the TCU game. There were two balls that he could have got to Xavier Worthy that would have been touchdowns, that would have beat TCU, and would have probably put them in the situation of where they're playing for the Big 12 championship and not on the sidelines waiting to play in a Liberty Bowl. You know what I'm saying? So just small minor things, not something that would be that would hinder him. I think he's a great passer. We know what he can do with the deep ball. I would just like to see more of it. And this week, the strike that he threw into the first touchdown that got called back, that was beautiful. I had no complaints there. I don't understand the holding call. I felt like it was going to be ticky-tack once we saw that. Because again, with offensive linemen, you don't want to get outside of the shoulders. I didn't see anything outside of the shoulders. However, they call that penalty because his arms are extended. When you have that situation where the arms are extended, you run into situations like that. So that's that. Okay. But everything else, especially there's one specific thing that looks really, really good. It wasn't a touchdown. It wasn't a touchdown, but it was a chance to continue to move the chains and continue to keep the clock moving. The pass that he made to Jonte Cook in the third quarter,
that was a good pass.
Was amazing. The pressure was coming around him. People were coming at his legs. You could see people like trying to, trip him up, trying to get him to fall and stuff like that. He steps up, delivers a strike down the ball or down the seam, and gets it to Jonte Cook. I absolutely love that. I thought that was a good thing. And yes, Mike, I do agree with you. Texas is for real. I like the fact that we were in the big house. Wish it would have been a night game. It wasn't a night game. That's perfectly fine. I feel like we will have our share of night games now that we have, beat Michigan and beat Michigan handedly. Listen, if I'm a Michigan fan, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I'd be a little nervous. I don't necessarily know what's going on at the quarterback helm. I don't know Michigan enough to just rattle off players like, of course, like being a Texas Longhorn fan. I don't necessarily know, but I would be really, really worried if I was a Michigan fan, because you've got USC, you've got Oregon, you've got Penn State, you got the rest of the Big Ten, and the Big Ten is not a gauntlet is a gauntlet when you get into play. When you get into a play and you're getting into conference play, that's not something you want to mess around with. You've had your two games, you've had your two out of conference games. You split those 500. I don't necessarily know if they're going into a bye week. I haven't checked, but they got to figure it out what they're going to do. They looked stale when it came to the passing game. Listen, the way that they had some things going, in the run game, we knew that they were going to get theirs. They still didn't really have a great game offensively on the running. But if I was a Michigan fan, I would be concerned. Putting Alex Orji in there, I'm so glad the defense was able to recognize that Alex Orji was in the game. They tried to literally sneak him into the game. It was so flawless how they were able to sneak him into the game, and I didn't realize it until they really kind of pandered. They panned on the field, and you can see Alex Orji like kind of just like hidden. We knew what was going to happen. That was a run. And listen, Alex Orji is no Sam Ehlinger. He's not 6'4", 225, 230 pounds of a man to run an option play like that. So I'm glad that the defense was able to recognize it. I think they should have used Alex Orji more in this situation. Like, when you're down that much, you should just give it all.
Sink. Yeah. Like, what else do you have to? And remember on Thursday, and there's a couple things I want to touch on. A couple things you said.
Yeah.
And I'll start with, remember on Thursday, I said, yes, Michigan is like won all these games at home. Yes, they're the defending national champions. What is the difference between this Michigan team and last year's Michigan team?
They lost their quarterback. They don't have any. A lot of their guys are gone too.
Jim Harbaugh is no longer the head coach. This was very indicative of a non-Jim Harbaugh. Listen, if Jim Harbaugh was coaching this game and he had the same QB scenario that they had this year, I still think Michigan's competitive. I think this is about how this team is coached versus how it was coached last year under Jim Harbaugh, right? I don't think Jim Harbaugh gets blown out like this. I just don't believe it, right? There's a couple things. This is Sharon Moore went into this game, and actually he's gone into the season clearly stating, this is how I'm going to do this, and it is my way because I want to distinguish myself from Jim Harbaugh. He's trying to make a name for himself.
Right, but that's what
you know why? You know why we know this as Texas fans? Who's the Texas head coach that tried to do the same thing?
Charlie Strong.
Where's Charlie Strong sitting today?
He's working for some NFL team.
Okay.
He's still getting paid by us.
Some kind of analyst, right? He's either, he might as well be like Tom Brady of some team, just like at the team, right? So. This is not, and this is the reason why I was not worried. I was not worried. I had Texas 30-20, so this score is not far off of what I had, right?
Yeah.
So there's a couple things. First off, Mike, what's up, man? Thanks for tuning in. Texas is for real. Yeah. Yes, we know this. We've had this feeling in our head. This Texas team is better than last year's Texas team. And the reason why is because there's so much more talent.
More depth.
Bro, I said it the other day, 6 wide receivers, 3 tight ends, 4 running backs. Like, we had to go into the running back room. Jarrett Gibson, a true freshman, came in and scored a touchdown and had a huge drive for this Texas team.
Yeah, and right? Trey did a really good job. Jaden, they all did great. I wasn't the way that things worked out with how they scored was not the original way that I thought that they would. Of course, you got Jaden, scoring. He's catching touchdowns. He's taking, short yardage passes and taking them long. He scored like a 30-yard pass or something like that. From just a swing.
Really, to start the game though, Jaden. I mean, the first play of the game, right, was like a jet sweep pass, essentially, right?
Right.
And it went for was it negative yards maybe?
Yeah.
Texas started this game behind the sticks.
Yeah.
Right?
You had a couple of false starts in there. Throw a couple of
false starts, which is weird. But here's the thing. I need to check. I think Texas was maybe at some point they were 8 of 9 or 9 of 10 or 7 of 8 on third downs.
Yes,
that's the key to this game. Texas did really whatever they wanted on third down.
Yeah, they looked
really
good.
They did whatever they wanted on third down.
And to be fair, to be fair, when you're in a situation where you're not behind the 8 ball so much and you have a third and manageable, there was plenty of times where there was 3rd and 2s, 3rd and 3s, 3rd and 4s, nothing really just out of just out of the ordinary. You didn't have really that many 3rd and 21s. I think you may have had like 1 or 2 because of a holding penalty that I don't think was a holding penalty. Brent Auburn misses that kick in the first quarter. That's weird. He's usually pretty automatic. He's one of the better kickers that Texas has had. And we've had our fair share, I would say, within the last 10 years. We've had Dicker, we've had Auburn, we've had Justin Tucker. We've been pretty lucky from a kicker standpoint. To see him miss that first field goal, I'm like, damn, it's gonna be one of those.
Kind of weird though, right? Like he was probably coming out expecting to kick an extra point.
Right.
Like if you really think about it, this should have been a 40-1-12 game. And let's just call it like 41-3, right? Because
they get the ball.
The touchdown at the end was kind of like, oh yeah. There was like a minute left in the game. I was just kind of like, let him have it, whatever, right?
Yeah.
I want to focus in on 2 things.
Okay.
And I kind of want to get your perspective on this. Number one, this is take this performance from the fronts.
Okay.
And multiply it times 100 when you compare it to what they did against Alabama last year. True or false? Like the question is true or false? Is this performance 100 times better than the performance they had last year in Tuscaloosa, Alabama? From the fronts, offensive and defensive front.
Yeah. Okay. So I get what you're saying. Yes.
Yeah.
From an offensive line and defensive line perspective, what they did today was very impressive. I would say from an offensive line perspective, Michigan's defensive line was better than Alabama's defensive line last year.
At this point in the season.
Now, again, it is very early in the season. We don't necessarily know what could happen. We could see them again. We could see Michigan again in a playoff. Listen, I'm not writing Michigan off just yet. No. I still think they have an opportunity to right the ship. They do have a tough game coming up in the next 3 weeks. They got, not within the next month. They have Arkansas State, which I think will be they'll handle them just fine. But they have USC, Michigan, and Washington.
Crazy. That's crazy.
Listen, whatever you want to say about Minnesota,
that's crazy.
That's not going to be an easy game. USC, I don't know what they did with their defense. All of a sudden, they're starting playing SEC style defense, and Washington's no joke either. Just because they got their quarterback and their coach is gone doesn't mean that they won't be a formidable opponent. And they're playing.
That's basically the same type of team, right?
Right.
Like Michigan and Washington are like mirror. They're not mirror. They're basically the same team. The only difference is one won the national title, one didn't. It's a national title rematch. They both lose their head coach to like different situations, NFL, the NCAA. They both lose veteran quarterbacks who had been in college for like 600 years. And now they're both like kind of in this like pseudo rebuilding. Are we rebuilding? Are we actually better than we think? Like there's a lot of uncertainty. That Michigan-Washington game actually might be a lot closer than the national title game.
Yeah.
Because of what's happened to those teams. Right. It's a very interesting game. And they're in Washington, which I know the Big House is tough. Bro, you don't want to go to Washington, bro. That place is tough to play too.
Yeah, they get rowdy too. So they've got a tough month ahead outside of the Arkansas State game. I really believe that they got a tough game. They have a tough 3 games ahead of them within the next month. And guess what? They don't have a bye week. They don't get to sit back. They don't get to retool. they don't that's not available to them. So most of the time you have games like this where you can go in, lick your wounds, try to figure out what to do from an offensive perspective, and you have a bye week to kind of just prepare yourself and kind of figure it out. They don't have that. And again, their next 4 games are Arkansas State. Again, we don't think Arkansas State is going to put up a big deal or a big match. We know that Michigan's got a lot of talent. We've seen it on display. Again, that defensive line, they may not have gotten Quinn down a lot, but they were still able to get some pressure on him. And
are those defensive tackles for Michigan? One thing I noticed is like the size disadvantage.
They are huge.
Those defensive tackles aren't necessarily big.
They're quick.
They're just quick.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of played into Texas's favor, like especially like once the offensive line started to settle. Like Cam Williams had a couple of goofy mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
I think DJ Campbell had a false start in there, which was kind of goofy. But I think once they settled in, like they really leaned on that defensive line, and it prevented really like everybody else from doing what they were hoping to do because they were having to guard longer. Like when you look at that secondary, right? Like if they're not Quinn, I don't think was Quinn sacked today. I don't remember. Oh, he had the one where he kneeled down.
Yes, he did. Yeah,
so
he
did
him tough.
That was I give up. That's not his. Right. Which should have been, by the way, it should have been roughing the passer or something.
That was crazy because once anytime a quarterback gets to a situation where he takes a knee, you just don't touch him. That is one thing that I know from a fact of just like that is punishable. Like you might not play in the game. You can be sent to the sidelines and never, because at that point, if they throw the flag, right? If they get the flag and Texas was relatively close, but you give them the red zone. Yeah, you give them an opportunity to get closer to the red zone. That's the difference between a touchdown and a field goal.
Right.
You just don't want to. You don't want to give Texas a fresh set of downs. You don't want to give them. I think that was maybe a second or third down that they were in a situation that they were in. You don't want to give them a new fresh set of downs because you want to be a knucklehead and hit the quarterback. That was a little bit for Michigan. Normally, they're pretty disciplined. They usually play some clean ball games. That was undisciplined. They still got away with it. They still got away with it. They didn't throw flags until after the scuffle, which I applaud the offensive line for protecting Quinn the way that they did.
Yep.
You can't have – that's your Ferrari, right? Your offensive line, those guys –
and the way they stood up for Quinn was
those guys have to protect Quinn at all costs. You don't want to get into a situation where you're going into next week with one quarterback because he's all banged up or whatnot. We don't want that. You want Quinn to get in there, do whatever he's got to do, and get out of there. And you want him to be clean, and you don't want him to be banged up. So I appreciate the offensive line taking up for their guy because you want that. You don't want your quarterback or anybody on your team taking cheap shots.
Yep.
So those penalties offset because of two guys. They found two guys.
They both went at it. Yeah. I mean that created a little bit of ruckus, but I think some of that was like.
I thought there was also frustration with it.
Yeah, it was frustration on the Michigan end. Yep.
Yeah, that's when you start to see things crack. And to me, that's just extra fuel for that Texas offensive line to get off the ball, fire off on the ball, and get into the end zone, and that's what they did.
So there's a couple of stats here that really stuck out to me, and we were talking about like, what does Michigan really need to do in order to like establish something for this game?
Mm-hmm.
Donovan Edwards, 8 carries, 41 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Khalil Mullings, 6 carries, 25 yards.
Right.
They actually threw the ball as many times as they ran the ball. And that is not – so they ran the ball 23 times. They threw the ball Actually, no. They threw the ball more than they ran the ball.
Okay.
They threw the ball between Davis Warner was 22 of 33 for 204. I think some of that was garbage, right?
Yep.
For 204 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions.
Right.
We've talked a lot about this offense, right? The defense today was excellent, specifically in the secondary.
Yeah.
And the secondary was the weakest point of this defense last year. It's what cost us the Washington game at the end of the day. I believe it.
Mm-hmm.
It's what's cost us the Oklahoma game at the end of the day because the very last play of the game was the secondary, right?
Right. Yeah.
This secondary was excellent. The secondary is great. Andrew Makuba came out today, and it goes to show it. On Thursday, we talked about, hey, look at Clemson and look at what the transfer portal can do for you.
Mm-hmm.
You look at guys like Isaiah Bond, who was awesome today.
Yep.
You look at Andrew Makuba, who was excellent.
Matthew Golden.
Matthew Golden, who had a touchdown, right? So if you had Matthew Golden anytime touchdown,
was amazing.
I feel like he's a walking touchdown.
Matthew Golden is he's a touchdown machine.
Waiting to happen. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
These are all guys from the transfer portal. And if I'm just not to go off topic, if I'm Dabo Swinney, right, I'm looking at a team like Texas and I'm saying, look at what they lost, but look at how much better they are. This team is better than last year's team. And last year was special. This team, to me, this team is national championship game or bust. I'm not saying they have to win the whole thing, but if we're looking at the trajectory of Sark, he goes 5-7, 8-4, 12-2 makes the playoff.
Right.
The next natural progression is you have to at least make the national title game. And then if you win it, awesome. If you don't, that would suck, right? That has to be the next natural progression. And you take a look at the steps that they're taking to get there. They beat Alabama by double digits last year, and they looked really good, and they ended up making the playoff. They dominated Michigan at home. And the narrative of hey, Michigan, they lost X, Y, and Z. They're very young. Whatever narrative you want to use, at the end of the day, all we heard all week was, Texas has never been to an environment like the Big House. They don't know what it's like. Well, you know what? It basically was playing a game in your living room, and it basically was irrelevant. So
can we talk about this really quick?
Yeah, go for it.
I want to talk about what you made. You made an observation, or you made an observation right after the game. You gave me a call, and you said, "Why is it that the media is? Why is the media continuing to move the goalposts or change the narrative about?"
Yeah.
Can you go into a little bit more detail on what you mean by that? Because I think that's I think it's downplay. So this is what I think. Oops, I just messed that up. I think it downplays the Texas win and not giving them the credit that they deserve. They went into the Big House on a Saturday where they hadn't lost in 2 years, and they were able to handle Michigan accordingly. And when you do something like that,
if it was any other team, they would be singing their praises.
Right.
So here's the thing. This happened last year, right?
This happened last year.
Yeah, this happened last year. I think there's a couple things. There's a couple of maybe unintentional precautionary things to this, and what is reality today.
And for you guys listening, for you guys that are listening, please send your comments on what you think we're about to talk about. If you think that, are we overreacting? Is there something that we're not looking at? What is it that makes you think, if you're a Texas fan or if you're a Michigan fan, if you feel that the narrative has been changed or they're changing the narrative, let us know what you think. We want to know what you think as well.
I think they keep moving the goalposts, right? And the reason why I said that is because last year we went into Tuscaloosa, Alabama, a place that Nobody goes in a night game, yet alone a night game in Tuscaloosa, right? We
Right.
go in there. Not only do we win that game, we actually pretty much dominated that game, right?
Right.
I don't care what anybody says to me. Yeah, when you win by 10, nobody has won by like more than 6 or 5 or something in Tuscaloosa, yet alone a double-digit win, right? And they're like, oh, Alabama, like Jalen Milroe still young, blah, 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 this, blah, 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 that. And it was like negating what Texas actually did to Alabama, forgetting that 2 years ago, Texas should have beaten Alabama in Texas.
Right.
If it wasn't for Bryce Young getting this crazy little fluke non-penalty that didn't exist.
That was a
It should have
safety.
been safety.
Right.
That was game, right? So Alabama goes on and they make the college football play and takes this Michigan team. This is so crazy. This Michigan team to overtime. Right?
Right.
Okay. Fair enough. Cool. Whatever. And I think last year's like, all right, I get what you're saying, but I'm telling you, this Texas team is for real. Texas goes on. They make the college football playoff with a blimp against Oklahoma, which, by the way, that if Oklahoma fans mention that stupid 1 yard play one more time, I might flip out. That was a face mask. I don't care what you say. That was a face mask. His butt was not down. They grabbed him by the face mask on the 1 yard line. That should have been a touchdown, and Texas should have won.
Right.
So, anyway, they do all that. They win the Big 12. They make the college football playoff. They lose to Washington. A game they should have probably played better. Quinn should have been better. They should have had, but at the end of the day, they lost by 6 yards, 7 yards, whatever it was. Cool. All the questions coming for Quinn this summer. You know, he's like, I have been on the 3rd-year Quinn train for a long time. Right? So y'all will not take me off this train. So coming into this year, last week, Texas dominates Colorado State. Michigan does not dominate Fresno State. And the thing we came onto the show with, I was like, hey, if Quinn has the opportunities to beat Michigan the way that Fresno State had the opportunity to do, if he actually converts on those, this might not be a close game.
Right. And it wasn't.
What do we hear? Oh, you've never been into an environment like the Big House. This is really, really sick. This is crazy. My cousin was at the game and I texted them. I was like, hey, what's the environment like? And they're like, it's really quiet. And I was like, well, shit, I'd be quiet too if I was getting dog walked at home. I wouldn't say nothing either. And yet still today,
when Texas scored that second touchdown, okay, and it's 14-3, and it's the second quarter, it's like the air and the confidence completely left that atmosphere.
It's dead. So Michigan is a team right now because they're so young. They rely so much on the confidence of the crowd. This Michigan team. Remember when? Remember the Notre Dame game?
Yeah.
That we won. That we ended up winning in what was that? Oh no, in like 2011. 9, 10?
2011.
Yeah. No, 11 or 12. It was it was second year of Charlie Strong.
Right.
That team reminds me of this team, this Michigan team.
That team wasn't that really good.
Neither is this Michigan team. We were so up and we didn't know who our quarterback is. It gonna be Tyron Swoops? Is it gonna be David Ash? Like that's what we were battling for 2 years until it ended up being Tyron Swoops. If David Ash, that's neither here nor there. But it's the exact same controversy. That Notre Dame team was very well established. The only difference is we won and they did. But it's kind of like the same concept, right? It's like
okay. So you're saying that Texas
now we've done this
team comes
now
in,
that we've done this
against a more established team.
It's a more established program. They're the defending national champions.
I feel that. I see what you're saying. I see what you're
now
saying.
why are we changing their narrative? Like 2 days ago, I literally told you, yes, they are the defending national champions. It's not the same team. It's not even the same program because it's not.
we've been saying that for the last
Programs
couple
are
of
changed. Programs are changed when the head coach is changed. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter whether it's year 1 or year 100. The
Mhm.
moment Steve Sarkisian took this team over, the program changed.
Yeah.
Whether good or bad, we didn't know at the time.
Right.
And obviously, year 1, obviously it didn't change for the good, right? Because we went 5 and
With 5
7.
and 7, yeah.
So why should that be any different for any other program today? Right? The program changed under Sharon Moore, and it's changed as a whole, but we're only realizing that 2 weeks into the season when we've known that this change was going to happen 8 months ago.
I got a hypothetical for you. It's a quick shot. I want you to answer it. Just don't think about it. Just answer it. Okay. Michigan loses 4 games, 5 games.
Yes.
And Sharon Moore the head coach still.
Yes. Here's the
Okay.
thing. The only reason why is because it's year 1, right?
Right.
You can't really establish that's like saying, oh well, Tom Herman leaves and Sark went 5 and 7. Do we fire Sark after year 1? I mean, the name brand is a little bit different, right? Because it was Steve Sarkisian and this is Sharon Moore. I think he has a shorter leash
Right.
than like Steve Sarkisian would. Like if he goes 5 and 7 this year, if Steve Sarkisian would have went 6 and 6 in year 2 versus 5 and 7, would you still be confident in Steve Sarkisian?
No.
I would have.
Oh, okay. Wait. 5 and 7 to 6 and 6.
We go 8 and 8, 8 and 4 in year 2, right? He was 5 and 7 year 1. Steve Sarkisian was 8 and 4 in year 2.
Okay.
What if he went 6 and 6? Would you have been confident?
It depends on the games that we lost. It depends on how we lost. If we lost because of penalties, we lost because of if we lost close matchups, cool. I have no problem. If we were losing the blowouts, absolutely not. If we were losing the blowouts, absolutely not. So here's my thing with Sharon Moore. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. I don't like saying these things. I think that man is out of here if he does not at least get to a conference championship, which I don't think he's gonna do if they're playing like this. I don't think he makes it as a coach. This is why.
Newsflash, he's a bum. He's not gonna make it that much. He's a bum. He sucks. But go ahead.
The reason why I don't think he's a bum, I just don't think he's. I don't think he's ready just yet. What is going to really hurt them in the long run is if whatever class they got right now and whatever they got coming into this next year, if those guys, and we'll cover this here in the next couple of minutes here, if those guys start leaving, if those recruits start to leave, regardless of the NIL money or the NIL deals that they may be having coming down the pike, if those guys end up leaving and start leaving early in the year, I don't see him sticking around because what they're going to need.
You have to think about. Here's the thing you have to think. He has an even shorter leash than Charlie Strong had, and Charlie Strong had a short leash with the transfer portal. Dude, you have a way shorter leash. Charlie Strong didn't have to worry about all that stuff, right?
Right.
He didn't have to worry about 5-star, Billy Bob Joe leaving.
Right.
Sharon Moore has to worry about that. And if Ohio State, if USC starts winning, Michigan's in trouble.
That's what's making me believe that in a situation where you're in the Big Ten, where you have an Ohio State, where you have a USC, where you have an Oregon now, you don't have a big of a margin to mess up in a year and establish yourself, especially in the way that you're losing. If you continue to lose the way that you have, and these kids they end up, I'm transferring to USC, I'm going to Ohio State, I'm leaving the Big Ten in general, I'm going to the SEC. Recruits, I'm not going to USC. I'm not going to Michigan. I'm going to Indiana, or I'm going to wherever, anywhere else but Michigan. That is going to be a problem once you start to lose talent, again, we're gonna talk about this when stuff starts to turn over, because basically we've seen this and we've experienced this within the last hour. We've experienced this in real life as Texas fans, and the University of Texas is just landing a key freaking piece that we've been talking about all summer. All summer. We just knew that this guy was going to come. We knew that this guy was going to come. He didn't. He goes to Florida State. Florida State does what? They wet the bed. Not once, but twice. You think that they're going to still have the same defensive talent? Because they got some ballers on defense now. Their offense is trash. They got ballers on defense. Am I wrong?
Michigan?
Yeah. Florida State's got some ballers on defense.
Wait, who has Michigan or Florida State?
Florida State. They're not putting up points on the offense. Their defense.
Oh, yeah. I think it's more Florida State's defensive line than it is anybody else. Their defensive line is very good.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, you talked about Clemson's defensive line being really good. Yeah. Florida State's defensive line is very good.
Right. So you're in a situation, and you think about all three of these teams, right? Clemson, Florida State, and Michigan. They all have these dynamic fronts, but offensively, they can't put it together. And in a situation like this right now, where you have transfer portals, you got NIL deals, you have these fickle kids that don't necessarily want to be experiencing a losing season. Like, you can't, being a coach, a beginner, being a first year head coach, you can't afford that. And to me, when you run into situations like this, this can set this one season. If Michigan don't get it done, this can set Michigan back 5 years.
Probably more.
More.
I mean, you look at the year after Charlie Strong comes in, you had a similar season, 5-7. Charlie Strong didn't do well for a couple of years.
Right.
It set her back 15.
Yeah.
Like we got to think about it. Until last year, 2023, the last good season Texas had that we were like very excited about. Like, they had a couple 10-win seasons, right? But like, we're talking about like contender type seasons, which is what blue bloods are, and Michigan is a blue blood.
Right.
This is what we are judged by. Are you a national championship contender? Texas had not been a national championship contender since 2009 until last year.
Right.
15 years.
Right.
We're talking 14, 15 years. Like, this is like and again, when you're like in Alabama, when you're Michigan, when you're Texas, when you're like the best of the highest standard of the higher standard,
right?
USC, nobody cares about your 10-win seasons. People care about the amount of national championship contention seasons you have, right? And so,
right.
Like right now, Michigan is fine because they just won the national title. So they've got they extended their leash a little bit, but the inconsistencies of the program that they have over the next 5 years, like you mentioned, is very important. Like, are they up and down? Does Sherrone Moore actually? Is Sherrone Moore a genius and he's just trying to get his stuff in? We don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but going back to what I was saying about like moving the goalpost, Texas has answered the bell. This team is for real. Sark is for real. He's just finished his first ever 10-win season on finally the first team that he actually has seen through. Like, this is year 2 of like a fully Sark team. And he actually mentioned it. He's like, hey, like, I've got a bunch of 3, 4, 5-year guys.
Right.
Like, this is truly Sharks team. And so
this is amazing. I think there's one player left actually from the 2019 season that is still there. I forget his name.
Like a starter?
No, not a starter.
Oh, then nobody cares. It doesn't matter.
And for you guys, I know we throw the term blue blood around, but there's literally only 8 teams that are blue bloods. That's Ohio State.
Texas is one of them, so get over it.
SC, OU, Michigan, Texas and Nebraska. You can argue what you can argue with whoever about who's really a blue blood. These 8 teams, you go and look up the wins and how many championships that they've had, like in their program history, like it explains it like a lot. So
argue with the wall. Texas is a blue blood. I don't care what you say. They're a blue blood.
Texas is what, 5th, 4th on all time.
Well, they just got win number 750 today, or no, 950.
Right. So we're not that far away from 1,000 wins, and not too many teams are going to reach 1,000 wins. Alabama must have really sucked during the 90s because
they did. They were trash.
I thought that they had 1,000 wins. They don't.
No, they're not even close.
And Alabama's ranked a little bit ahead of us. I think they're in the 960 range, that 960 range. But even then, they're one of the 8 blue bloods. So just get used to it.
Alabama has 960 wins, and it took Nick Saban to get them there.
Right. And Nick
You
Saban.
could argue Alabama's only a blue blood because of Nick Saban.
Nah, man, Bear Bryant did a lot. Bear
Bryant.
Bryant
Did
a lot, bro.
Did Bear Bryant win 6 national titles or 7 national titles?
No, but he won them enough. He won them enough.
He won like 4, 3, 4, 5?
I think he won 4.
4.
I think he won 4, but he was in quite a few.
Thinking about national championships, 7 is a lot more than 4.
Yeah, 7 is a lot more than 4. I'm not arguing that, but what Bear Bryant did was remarkable in that time.
I forget about Bear. My bad, Bear. You know what, Bear? I don't care. We beat Alabama at your house, so.
If at the end of the day, if the world would end today, there is a Bear Bryant and a Nick Saban statue outside of Lane Stadium. So,
that's fair. Any final thoughts on the game today? And we'll obviously we will have Coach Will on the show on Thursday for a full film session. I'm very interested in seeing. There's a couple things I want to see. What has changed in 2 games? What has changed with the secondary this year to last year? Because there had to have been a change because of the amount of success that they've had, right? So there's definitely been a change.
I would love to also have Coach Ware on there. I know it's probably be really.
If he can come on, we can have all. We can
even if it's just for a couple minutes. I would love to hear 2 coordinators, one former UNLV, one former defensive backs coach at Grambling State. I'd love to get their perspective on both of the offensive and the defensive side of the ball. From a defensive backs perspective, that being Coach Ware's, defense is all around thing, but he does know defensive backs very well. He's got a couple of guys into the league because he's such a great coach. And then you have, you got Coach Williams, who's did a dynamic job with UNLV, and his knowledge of the offensive side of the ball. I would definitely like to get them together. Honestly, I would just like to get them together and just let them go, because I feel like I know the game, but obviously these 2 guys know the game very well because they've coached. Yeah. They've coached for a long time, and it takes a special type of kid or a special type of person to be a coach, and they know things and know more tendencies than I do. I would say I do know football. I do know ball, like from a defensive perspective, I do know ball. But there's just something about when you got a defensive coordinator and an offense coordinator, they really know the game. They really know the game, and I would love to get them online and just watch them go. Like, just watch them talk.
I just texted B Weezy as I asked if he was available on Thursday. So
I mean, it is.
Potentially get all of us on a call on the show next week, and we can
again
because Coach Will's going to bring the tape. He's got the $1.99 or whatever that is.
Right. Understood.
So,
Yeah, I really wanted to get the perspective from that. I like hearing coach speak per se.
yep,
Um,
fair enough.
I'm big on that. What I will say before we go on to the next topic is that this to me is a confidence boost. You know, you go into a situation again, people are moving the goalposts. Now you got some fire, right? You got something you can say. You can build off of. We went to the big house, we won in the big house. We handled these guys with no problem. We were never down. We led the entire game.
We actually were. There's never one point.
And
That's actually pretty. I just realized that.
And they're still moving the goalposts. That is something that Sark can utilize as bulletin board material. Hey guys, you went in here and you beat the defending national champions, and they're still saying, "Oh, well, that's not the same team from last year." Every team is different from year to year. Every team.
We know this. Everybody knows this.
And they're still not giving you the proper credit that you deserve to have. What do you want to do about that? And that should be your motivating thing for the entire year. If I'm a Texas football defensive back or some type of offensive coordinator, coach, whatever, I'm going out there and I'm telling these guys every week, you need to blow somebody's brains out. You need to go and blow everybody out because they didn't respect you for beating Michigan the way you did. And even though you handled them, there are still people out there that don't credit you for the way you handle Michigan.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And you know what? Even though everybody did in the big dogs, right? Fox, ESPN, Barstool, all these guys, you know what I'm saying? They still, even though they had Texas to win, I don't think they had Texas winning the way that they were going to win at all. Yeah. At all. Now, there was a couple of guys out here that said, hey, listen, Texas is going to blow the doors off these guys. And they were getting laughed at. And when you're getting laughed at, that should piss you off if you're a Texas fan. If you're a Texas fan, if you're a Texas player and you hear stuff like that, that should piss you off. So we'll eventually move on here. Another thing that I'd like to give kudos to, and I don't know if I talked about it earlier, shout out to the running backs for picking up the blitzes the way that they did. That was impressive. Michigan was blitzing like crazy. They were sending corner blitzes, nickel blitzes. They were blitzing safeties. They were blitzing delayed blitzes. They had every blitz that you can think of. Texas was able to handle it. I saw a lot of chirping earlier in the game, especially that first drive. Cam Williams had some issues. Listen, in a situation like that, you need to let the offense and let the offense get an understanding of what's going on. Let the offensive coordinator get an understanding of what's going on. That first drive, guys, they made it all the way down to the 14, 15-yard line. They did miss the field goal, but they were able to get down the field. And when you're able to get down the field, I know you see the blitzing. I know you see these guys screaming in. Well, the running back's main objective is to get the guy closest to him because that guy is the one that's going after the quarterback. So if there's somebody on the left side, there's a nickel blitz and it's a delayed blitz, that running back has to pick up whoever's in front. So 9 times out of 10, if he's standing on the strong side where the tight end is and there's a blitzer coming, somebody blitzing from that side, his responsibility is to pick the ball or to pick that blitz, that guy up because that's the guy closest to the quarterback. If you have a delayed blitz where you have what we saw a lot was delayed blitzes from a nickel standpoint on the weak side of the ball, on the weak side of the line, that is on Quinn to understand what is going on. That is on him to understand that. The center is not going to see that one. because that is outside of his peripheral. And shout out to Jake Majors. Shout out to him because he had a hell of a game from an offensive standpoint. He had a hell of a game. So shout out to him for doing that. But yeah, those delayed blitzes, those nickel blitzes, and things of that nature. And we'll cover this next week. When you have that, that's on Quinn, and Quinn did a fabulous job of realizing what's happening, seeing the blitzes, moving the pocket. Shout out to Sark for doing things like moving the pocket, motions, screens, all types of stuff. The sweeps, the Ryan Wingo sweep, getting him that 50.
Ooh, that was beautiful. Late in the game too, right?
They literally hit them with. They kept them honest. Did Michigan continue to blitz? Yes. Did they get there at some times? Yes. But Texas was able to maximize on the blitz they were able to maximize and do what they needed to do.
Yeah.
That was one thing that I was worried about. I was worried about, is Quinn going to be able to see these blitzes? Are the offensive line and the backs going to be able to pick up on these blitzes? Because that was one thing that I liked about CJ Baxter. That was one thing I liked about, of course, Zayden and Savion. That was one thing that Savion did last year very well. He was able to verify blitzes and pick up blitzes, and they used them in a set to where they had packages for him, screen packages, so where if they were blitzing, they knew how to get Savion out in the open field and get the ball off to him. They did the exact same thing. It was actually really nice to see the offensive game plan.
I was never worried about the offense. I was worried about the run defense, especially in the interior. And I thought the interior of the defensive line was very good.
It wasn't that I was worried about it. It was what were they going to do? And they did exactly what I thought that they would do. They came out in these 5-wide sets. They came out in these.
Oh, I'm talking about like when Michigan, with Donovan Edwards and with whatever their other running back is. I actually never heard of him, but apparently he was supposed to be really good. But
can I be fair? Can I be fair with you? I didn't know who Donovan Edwards was until he leaked onto the game about.
Oh, really? You didn't realize that was the same guy that was like busting runs last year all year?
No, because I remember their other guy,
Blake Corum.
Blake Corum.
Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention to Donovan Edwards like that. I was paying attention to Blake Corum because Blake Corum was good.
So Donovan Edwards is he's not their workhorse, which is why it was always weird to me, like how people thought like he was gonna like be an impact, because Donovan Edwards gives me like a very Derrick Henry vibe. But in a Michigan style offense where he's not the bell cow, you won't notice it. To where it's like they're hoping like, yeah, he might get like 10, 15 carries, but he might get like 4, he might get like 5, maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe 6, maybe 7, and he's just gonna break one. Right. He broke one for a whopping 20 yards.
20 yards.
Whatever it was. But normally he breaks one for like 40, 50, 60, 80. Like that's the type of threat that he's
a home run hitter.
Yeah, he's a home run hitter. Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's what they were hoping they were going to. The problem is in order to get that, even like that type of like home run hitter type run, you have to have another guy that's getting those intermediate runs consistently.
Right. And they didn't do that. They
weren't even close.
Michigan was held to under 100 yards. Donovan Williams had 40 yards in total, 80 yards total for the entire running back squad. So being held under 80 yards being held under 100 yards is a massive win to me for Texas. That goes to show that they're not lacking when it comes to defending the run. Now, down the line, they do got a couple other backs. They do got a face. They've got Travis Etienne.
That's gonna be big. I think the Etienne matchup's gonna be the biggest matchup of the year. That's gonna be biggest test for this run defense.
Do they have Cedric Alexander? Do they have to play Cedric Alexander? Yes, they do. They do have to play. They got Travis and Cedric Alexander, and they also got what's the running back from Oklahoma? Jesus Christ.
Oh, you're talking about I know who you're talking about.
Right. So
I'll get his name. You can
they've got a lot to work. They've got a lot that they're going to face. They're going to face more. They're going to face more running backs. That might be honestly, I think this is like the 3 hardest games that they're going to have.
Taylor Tatum. They're gonna have to face against Taylor Tatum.
Taylor Tatum.
Sawchuk.
Right. There we go.
From Oklahoma.
Yeah, those guys are not slouches. Listen, as much as I hate OU, they do produce good running backs. Those guys.
I'm not worried about OU.
I'm not saying that I'm worried about OU. I'm just talking about the talent that they have on the team.
No talent.
See, you're talking shit. I'm being a realist in regards to this. Like,
no talent.
Their running backs are the most talented guys that they have on the team.
They have a lot of running backs that can average 5 yards a carry. Sick.
If you average 5 yards a carry and you get 3 carries and you average 5 yards on that, that's 15 yards. That's a first down.
They average 3 yards a carry.
3 yards a carry. 3 yards a carry times 4 is 12.
2 yards a carry.
You get what I'm saying. They're getting they still got a ton of running backs. I'm not saying that those guys are more talented than Donovan Edwards. I'm just saying, hey, we haven't seen the best yet.
Michigan, Oklahoma, same team?
Ooh.
The only difference is we'll see Oklahoma a little bit less. The only reason why I ask is, can Jackson Arnold be really good? Sure. You know how I see Jackson Arnold this year?
How?
I see Jackson Arnold as Quinn Ewers year 1.
Meaning he won't be better until year 3?
It's going to take him a couple of years.
Yeah.
Like, can Jackson Arnold have some really good performances and overhype OU fans? Absolutely.
Right.
But he's going to need a couple years to get through the kinks. Yeah, I think he's going to. Here's the thing. This is why they say stacking quarterbacks is very important.
Right.
You look at Quinn Ewers this year, year 3. I think the jump from Quinn Ewers this year and Arch Manning next year is 0. I don't think there's going to be a gap there. And then you look at Trey Owens. There's 2 scenarios. Arch Manning either stays, and even if he leaves, you have Trey Owens in his 3rd year.
Right.
And if he doesn't leave, you have Arch Manning in his 4th year, and then Dia Bell would be in his 2nd year.
Right. Yeah.
This is what we mean by stacking quarterback talent, right?
Yeah.
OU does not have that.
It's kind of crazy, and it's funny that you mentioned this because I've recently been playing an offline. I finally started an offline dynasty with Cincinnati, and I did pretty well. I got to the playoffs each year. I've gone to the playoffs. 1 year I lost, and I started recruiting quarterbacks, and I only got 1. And
you
now
quarterbacks every year
and now I need 2 because I only have 2 on my. I didn't even realize because I'm like, oh, I got these other quarterbacks. I'm good, but they left. One guy the one guy that I did have, he had such a great year. He, even though we didn't win the national championship, he was like, I'm going to the NFL. I'm gonna get 1st round draft pick. I'm like, no, and I tried to convince him to stay. Of course, you're not strong enough to get the guy to stay. You're in Cincinnati and it's your 1st year. You're not going to convince him to stay. He doesn't stay. So now I got the backup quarterback, but the guy that I'm like, oh, I'm good though, because I got the backup quarterback, and I got this other quarterback that I went and recruited, and now I'm just like, wait a minute, I need more quarterbacks, because now it's a need. You know how they do the recruiting thing, and it's like you need this, You need this. So now I'm like, oh, I really need two quarterbacks.
Yep.
I
Yeah, life catches up with you really quickly, doesn't it?
I didn't
Crazy.
realize how deep you needed to have your quarterback room. I would say I really didn't know that until really this year, or really last year, because Quinn, we didn't know where Quinn was going to go. We didn't know if he was going to stay. We didn't know if he was going to go. You have prior to that, you have what's old boy? He went to Duke. He goes to Duke.
Malik Murphy.
Malik Murphy. Shout out to him. He had a decent game last night. And he
the game-winning touchdown.
Yeah, he looked really good doing it. And then you got, you had Chad. He leaves. He goes to Purdue. Oh, not Chad.
No, they had some guy. I don't know.
Yeah,
but they had who's the guy who went to Purdue? I forgot his name.
I can't remember.
I don't know, but he was terrible.
He wasn't terrible. He won us some games. He won us some games.
No, last year he was terrible.
I don't know what he did. I don't know what he did.
He was terrible.
I didn't know what he did at Purdue, but
what was his name? Why did I forget his name? Cole Hudson.
There we go.
Is it Cole Hudson? Yeah.
Cole Hudson. Chad Hudson.
Chad Hudson. There you go.
Chad Hudson. So yeah. You gotta have deep quarterbacks, man.
Man.
It's all
about Hudson Card.
Hudson Card.
Oh, my God.
Sorry, Hudson Card.
We were all around it. So
yeah, sorry, Hudson. We really did. We really messed that up. We screwed the pool.
Maybe if you weren't so trash, we wouldn't have messed up your name.
Well, he wasn't trash. He just didn't do well at Purdue, bro. Oklahoma. Just to kind of go over Oklahoma, we're just rambling now, but they have U of H today. They got Tulane, Tennessee, and Auburn before they get to Texas. I could see them easily losing two of those games, 2 of those 4 games. Specifically,
They're losing 3 games right there.
Do you think they beat?
They're going to lose to Tulane or Houston. I don't know which one. It might be Tulane because Tulane's a veteran team.
Tulane is them motherfuckers good. Look, they're good.
And they're going to lose. I think they're going to lose to Tennessee and Auburn. Dude, if you look at Auburn, bro.
Auburn looks good. Auburn looks good. Hey, listen, Tennessee, they got a 6'5" scrambler over there.
Yeah. He's better than your quarterback. Sorry. It's just the facts.
He looks good.
Way better.
I can't even pronounce
that dude's going to be in the Heisman. He's going to be Nico Iamaleava.
I don't know, but he's
Nico.
The
dude's a baller.
He throws, and I know you pay attention more to Tennessee than I do because you have ties to Tennessee because that's where you lived prior to coming out of Texas. But dog, that dude looks crazy good. I don't want to see. That's the one guy I don't want to see.
Since we're on a live show, who cares? Northern Illinois 13, Notre Dame 14, with 45 seconds to go.
Who has the ball?
Northern Illinois on 4th and 1 at the Notre Dame 19-yard line.
Shut up. If Notre Dame loses,
Texas A&M can be clowned.
If Notre Dame loses to Northern Illinois, this is the same thing that I was talking about. If Notre Dame loses, and remember, I had Notre Dame in my bracket.
It's being reviewed 4th and 1. I'm watching the game right now. Being reviewed right now. Wow.
They got it.
Wow. A&M is actually. Nah, bro. He got it. Nah. What are they do? What are they reviewing? He definitely got it.
So Notre Dame could possibly lose. Okay.
All they need is a field goal. I don't know why they didn't just take the field goal.
I don't know.
They're on the 20-yard line.
Some people are trying to get, some people want to get
trying to run the clock out so they don't have a shot.
Right. So, okay. If Notre Dame loses, this leaves the ACC open. Now we do know who we think is going to be the all-out winner. Even now, I would say Miami has Miami is the most talented team in that division. But if Notre Dame loses, that still gives Clemson an opportunity to take advantage of that. Did they hit it?
Call it fourth down.
What?
So I guess that was the third. I think this is behind. That was probably the third down play, and now they're saying it's fourth down, so they're going for the field goal. So the kicker for Northern Illinois is about to kick it with 36 seconds to go.
Mind you, I don't think I had anybody going undefeated. Oh, well, yes, I did. I have one team going undefeated in my bracket.
Wow.
Did they miss it?
And Northern Illinois is up 16-14 with 30 seconds to go.
Yeah.
Real quick, Texas better be the number 2 ranked team in the country after this week. I don't care who plays. I don't care if Ohio State wins by 70. They better be the number 2 ranked team in the country after this week.
Okay, let me ask you this.
That's going to be my number 2.
Guys, we're just rambling at this point. We're just trying to keep up with the game to see what happens here. So we appreciate you guys.
Nothing else. Do you have any final thoughts on the game?
No, I don't have anything else on the game. Yeah. Do you have anybody going undefeated in this year? I only have one team possibly going undefeated.
The only team that I have going undefeated is the winner of the Texas-Georgia game. If Texas beats Georgia, I don't think anybody's beating them.
That's fair. I applaud that.
And then if Georgia beats Texas, I don't think in the regular season nobody's beating them.
Right. I told you where I think that Texas is going to have a slip up. I think they'll have a slip up. Possibly going into that Memphis game.
Nah.
No, not the Memphis game, Kentucky.
After today, I just don't see it.
The way that the schedule is set up, I could see Texas. That's the only thing that I see them slipping up on. Honestly, I
don't see it. I have that much faith in. I think Sark knows what it is. I just don't see it. If Texas beats Georgia, they're not losing a game. At least through the regular season. The SEC championship, maybe.
The only reason why I say that, the only reason why I even mentioned Kentucky is because Arkansas, I don't think Arkansas is going to be a walk in the park. And that's going to be a rivalry game. And again, that's at Arkansas.
That's Arkansas. That's the challenge.
That's the only reason why I have them just possibly losing that game. Now, I will also say this. I
just don't see it.
I only see that's real. Realistically, I could even say Oklahoma and Georgia, those two, but just Oklahoma, I just don't. The way you feel about Michigan, the way you felt about Michigan is kind of the same way I feel about Oklahoma. I understand it's a rivalry game. I just don't think
it works about Oklahoma.
Remember, you were like, "There's no doubt in my mind. There's no doubt." Like we kept talking about, you were like, "I don't fear Michigan. I don't fear Michigan. I don't feel like Michigan.
I don't fear Oklahoma."
That's what. So the way you feel about felt about Michigan is the way I feel about Oklahoma this year.
Yeah,
I just don't see them losing it. I understand it's a rivalry game. Anything is possible.
I'd be shocked if they lost to Oklahoma this year.
I was
shocked they lost to Oklahoma last year.
They should not. They should have won that game by 10. They should have won the game.
They should have dusted Oklahoma last year.
They did.
That was a bad Oklahoma team.
That team was bad. Oh my God.
That team was bad.
They struggled.
Bro, they lost to a backup at Kansas.
That's what I was getting to.
Who ended up being a 7th round, who was an undrafted free agent.
and he smoked them. Like he was
Yeah,
running
he
all
did.
over.
2 years in a row.
He
2 years in a
literally
row.
ran all over the place. Like he ran up and down Oklahoma. Anyway,
The only thing we need to talk about today, with great success comes great rewards. Texas was blessed 30 minutes after the game ended. Myron Charles, defensive end from Florida, who was actually very back and forth between Texas and Florida State anyway, officially flips to Texas. This actually came right before we went on air. I actually didn't even realize it happened.
This was the deciding factor of why we should get on. Yeah. This was the deciding factor of why we even got on the night. Because we were just gonna wait till Thursday. But when this happened, I was just like, we were on the phone talking about the game when this happened, and I'm just like, bro, what the
Myron Charles flips. The next person to look for is Javen Hilson because him and Charles are very close. They're actually like really good friends. Yeah. Like I think somebody said they're like almost like best friends. So I would not be surprised if Javen Hilson also flips. And this is the stuff, Steve Sarkisian. This is stuff we were talking about when it's like, hey, on-field success will help you with recruiting. I want so bad to be like better in like summer recruiting, but at the same point, I understand that it's going to take winning on the field to have a true impact on recruiting.
Yeah.
So, Javen, Myron, we will dig deeper into the Myron Charles commitment on Thursday, but we've got to get out of here from now. I got to go get some food, and the kickoff for Nebraska, Colorado is about 45 minutes away. Got to feed the family. Got to make sure we're good. But hey, Tim, real quick, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter. You can find me at Tim Wayne, of course. You can also find me on the Longhorn Fan Battle podcast. Again, I'm not the one talking super trash. I did throw some things out there. Again, shout out to the Longhorn community. Shout out to the Longhorn. Did Notre Dame was,
they got a field goal blocked. Number 10 Notre Dame, the team that beat Texas A&M, has just lost. Which is further proof that Texas A&M is trash.
Northern Illinois. This is why it is important to gather your troops every week and have them understand that they cannot overlook their opponent. They had a great win. Notre Dame had a great win against A&M. They made A&M look like trash. A&M plays against McNeese State today. They put up 60-some odd points.
A&M trash confirmed.
They go in. You come into Northern Illinois, or did they play at Northern Illinois?
No, they played at home.
You play at home. You cannot give up games.
The home opener.
You cannot give up no home opener like that. Now, again, of course, none of my teams that I have in the playoffs went undefeated except for Ohio State. So there's still noise, there's still time, but you don't want to lose that game. That's a game you don't want to lose. They blew it. They really blew it. But, we can continue to talk about this online. Me and Harish will be active online. We'll be active online. Harish is going to be letting the jokes go for A&M. Who again, they beat McNeese State, but whoop-de-doo is McNeese State. Beat Appalachian State, then come and holler at us. If you want trash talking, there's mine. But yeah, this is. You want to talk about rap?
College football, baby.
You want to talk about rat poison? Who had Notre Dame losing to Northern Illinois today? Nobody.
This is why I said on Thursday, rat poison isn't this weekend. Next weekend versus UTSA is your rat poison. Texas better be ready to take care of business next week. But you can find me at the Uncle Gandhi on Twitter. I'm on LH Fan Battle. I will be talking all the mess all week because we deserve it. But hey, between now and then, my name is Harish. That's my guy Tim. We out of here.
Peace. Hey, Gabriel.
Go home, touchdown like an end zone.